Thank you. All right, do I need to do anything with this?
Nope.
All right. Well, I have to first thank Landy for asking me to come here. When I first met Landy and just interacted with her, it's like, man, I want to grow up and be just like her. So I'm trying. We had our inaugural short course in the Northwest just now. We had it in the fall, and it went splendidly, thanks to Landy's helping out with a lot of the curriculum. So anyway, this was a final project I had to do last year, because last year, May 17th to June 10th, 2022, I went with the University of Florida. It was a study abroad program. It really was for students, like freshmen, 18, 19-year-olds to 20-year-olds. But yeah, thank you. But I found out about this through Cameron Jack, and I asked him, would you be interested in, or could you take a non-student? And he says, well, if we have enough room, because this was his first time he ever did this, and he did. So he took me, and he took, actually Bill Heschbach, you might know him, he's from Connecticut. He also went. We were the super seniors, let's say. So we went, and it was a tough time to go, because, this is right during, lots of activity in the bee yard, but we went. So I'm going to say Sawadee Ka, which in Thai means hello, basically. If you were male, you would say Sawadee Krap. The last word is actually different, but that's how you say it, and they're very, very nice over in Thailand. So I'm going to take you into the Thai beekeeping world and show you some of their bees over there, because they have a lot of different ones. Oh, and this is just a thank you. This is a thank you to Dr. Ellis and Dr. Ellis. I was actually talking with him, emailing him today, and Dr. Cameron Jack. Those were the two that went over. This is Gun. Her name is Dr. Guntama Sawanapang, but she goes by Gun for short. Really nice lady. Yeah, really nice lady. She's the professor over there, and beside her, with his eyes closed, unfortunately, is we call him Song, but he was her PhD student, is Sanchi Nari, and he now is a professor over there. He got his PhD, so I got to thank that. Oh, and I just threw that in there because wherever I go, I take this is the Northwest t-shirt, I take that wherever I go and give it to whoever. So they're all over the place. So let's talk about honeybees a little bit, because that's why you're here, and the distribution of the honeybees. Now, entomologists vary on the number of species. A is obviously for Apis, but in general, they think it's like 9 to 11, but they all agree on these 9. As you can see, all that red zone, that is our western honeybee, Apis mellifera.
Are you sharing this with us? Will these slides be on our website?
Yeah, you can have it.
Okay, great.
You can have
Thank
it.
you.
Sure.
There's 2 species up there I have never heard of.
Oh, well. Okay. So you can see Apis mellifera, which is the western honeybee, and the western honeybee are your Carniolans, your Italians, your Russians, which are a hybrid, your Buckfests, which are a hybrid. All those are actually, the hybrids are hybrids, but the other ones are subspecies. Apis scutellata, which is often in Africa. That is all western honeybees. Oops, sorry, I got to get I'm trigger funny here. So we don't have honeybees in the poles, and why don't we have any honeybees here?
Looks like a desert to me.
That's right, this is hard desert. No honeybees there. So you can see the western honeybee is all over the place, but where we have a huge, basically the rest of them are all in Southeast Asia and a little over into the Arabian Peninsula. And Thailand, where I went with the group, is right there. So it's a lot of overlapping. Actually, we saw 5 of the 9 species in one trip, which is kind of wild. So it's a hot spot of honeybee diversity. So of the 9 to 11, depending on which entomologist you talk to, species of honeybees worldwide, 5 are in Thailand. Only 1 is in the US, in Canada, in Europe, in Africa, but there are many subspecies. And the subspecies can breed, but species cannot. Okay, keep that in mind. So the areas we visited we started in Chonburi, which is a little south of Thailand. That's where the professor's university was. And we spent two weeks there studying honeybees and going out on little field trips. Then we went to, near Cambodia, Kalai National Park. That was a cool spot. And then we went up north to Chiang Mai. If you ever go to Thailand, Bangkok's like the main city you think of, but that's more your financial city. This is more your cultural city. It's up in the mountains. It's beautiful. So if you ever go there, try hit Chiang Mai. And we went to Samui Island, which is in the Gulf of Thailand, and then down in Phra Long. This is the Malaysian peninsula here. Part of it is Thailand, part of it is Malaysia. We hit that area. Thailand is about twice the size of Wyoming. It's not square like Wyoming, it's a kind of a funny shape, but that's about the size of it. So, 4 of the species we saw are native. It's Apis dorsata, which is the giant honeybee. Apis cerana, the eastern. That's the one where Varroa destructor originated. They evolved together and jumped ship to our western honeybee. And the 2 dwarf species, Apis florea and Apis anadreniformis. And then the 1 introduced species, which is our western one. So Dr. Ellis liked to talk about the 3 branches of honeybees. He talked about the cavity nesters first. And the cavity nesters, anything in bold are ones that we saw. These species we didn't see because they weren't in Thailand. So the cavity nesters are what we're used to. Something that typically builds its nest in a cavity of some sort, either like a Langstroth type hive or any other type hive. These are Apis cerana. They were going between the logs of our log cabin in the national park and basically constructed a nest between the outer wall and the inner wall. And I remember the one girl, she had her head rest was against that inner wall, and she just went to bed with that humming all night. It was kind of she fortunately she was an entomology student. She was cool with that, but that was kind of neat.
Jean,
Yes.
the 2 species I have never heard of are Nunuensis
Mm-hmm.
and Nigrocinta. Can you? Are you going to tell us?
Nope.
About
I'm
those?
only going to tell you about the Thailand ones. I'm sorry, because they would be. Well, we can go back and look, see where they're.
Hive and honeybee.
We can go where they were at. Okay, so this one, where is it? The top one,
Right,
orange.
The top one and the bottom one.
That's over here. We didn't see that
Not in
area.
range.
And the bottom one is also over here. It looks so.
More.
So we weren't in that range. Okay, close your eyes. I got them flicked real fast. Okay, so we're back to the cavity nesters. And the 2 cavity nesters are the eastern and the western honeybee. Then you have your giants and Laboria, so I think that's in the Himalaya more area. But we saw Apis dorsata. And notice the asterisks, that's an open nester. It basically is one solid sheet of comb hanging off of something. It can be a tree branch, it could be a structure. You'll see pictures of them. But it's out in the open, not a cavity nester. In fact, if you look closely here, this is where we stopped for lunch one time. It was like a restaurant hotel. See that where I circled up there? Close up. That was a dorsata nest right there, hanging off the hotel structure. And it wasn't a particularly big one. And that's covered in bees, because that's how it protects itself. It doesn't have like an entrance to guard. It has the whole sheet to guard. So it's essentially coated in a couple layers of bees. And then you have your dwarves, which are Florea and Adreniformis. These here are the dorsata. They look like flying queens to me. It looks like just a whole bunch of flying queens.
What's in the bowl?
What's in the bowl? Oh, we'll get to that, but that is soy powder. It's basically like a pollen substitute. It's soy powder. But I'll show you another picture of that.
What does the queen look like?
We didn't see a queen up close live, and we didn't really see one in a nest, but it's slightly larger, what I've been told. But actually the cells of all the dorsata cells are pretty similar. So it's not tremendous. I don't think it's tremendously bigger, but they look like flying queens. We didn't see one. Well, here is a chart. Now, I don't think there are any queens on here. I'm not sure, but here's comparing. This is dorsatas. This is mellifera hours. Here's cerana, eastern. Cerana is slightly smaller, not quite as hairy, and slightly striped. The stripes are a little more distinguished. Like you can see the stripes on here. You can really see the stripes very well. Where our stripes aren't quite as uniform and They don't pop as much. But it takes a little bit of a trained eye to differentiate them after a while. And then this is the red dwarf, which there are no samples of the black dwarf. That's the most rare species there. So here is a picture of a feeding station. This is at the university. You can see that there's a hive there and under there. They have this cover over top for protection, and they put the soy powder on. If you look here, hopefully I can get my video to work. Okay, I'm going to point out most of these are dorsata. These are the large ones. There's a couple mellifera in here, but then I'm going to show you, but the big ones are all dorsata. So it looks like a whole bunch of flying queens.
Yeah, it does, it really does.
And then I'll show you, you'll see a Floria, a dwarf, when I pan over to the next one. And you'll see better pictures of them later, but that one right there, that's a dwarf. That's a red dwarf. So they look cute and tiny compared to these dorsatas. The feeding station was really more for the mellifera that they kept at the university as well as Serrana, but the giants would just come in, in the morning. They come in the morning and take their fill. And then you could hand feed them. That's what I was doing there. You put it on. It's just kind of cool, learning to have a bee feed on your hand, especially a giant bee.
Do they sting?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now,
So did you get stung?
I got stung 4 out of the 5
Did you
species.
have a reaction?
No. The only one I didn't get stung with was the giant.
Was it interesting?
And myself and Dr. Ellis did not get stung. Everybody else got stung. And we were trying, and actually Dr. Jack didn't either. Dr. Jack and I were taking dorsata and irritating them and trying to have them sting us. And they wouldn't sting us. But that's, I guess, our luck. But I got stung by all the other 4 types.
What's interesting is you didn't have a reaction. So the proteins in the venom must be very similar to mellifera.
Yeah, I think so. From the people that did get stung, like Bill Heschbach got stung by some giants, and he said it was not much different than a regular mellifera sting to him. Okay, so off we go into the jungle. It was fun. We're not in New Jersey anymore. We were following a honey hunter and looking for, in this case, this was dorsata, the wild nest, because those giants and dwarves are not managed at all. That's purely wild honey hunting. Okay, they have hunters that go out and look for them. And this guy that you're going to see, he's my age. He's 60 years old. Oh my gosh, you guys see what he did. So he comes across this stream, and he has this little branch across. There's no posts, and he skips right across. And we look at him like, really? So he took his machete and made some posts for us so we could not fall in. It was a little challenging, but we had fun. And then the other thing, it was not just honeybees we got to see there. We got to meet land leeches. I never knew there were leeches on land. I thought they were a water thing. They are not. They are in the well, yeah, but these are land leeches. So I do have a little video on this. I call them vampiric inchworms. So this is one right here, and watch how it moves. Oops, okay, and this is, Dr. Jack is modeling the highly recommended leech socks, which I bought after I was leeched because I thought it was just a marketing thing. Oh yeah, they crawl right up your pant leg. You don't feel them, and when they bite you, you don't feel them because there's a little anesthetic put in there, so you don't feel them and you don't pull them off until they let them drop off naturally. They fill up like a little hot dog, and then they fall off, and I was like, ugh. And then you get a really big black and blue mark because when they bite you, they put in some anticoagulant so the blood comes out better. So instead of just getting a little scab, you get like a big black and blue mark because that anticoagulant hangs in there and gives you a black and blue mark for a week or 2. So yes, I wear these. These leech socks are actually great out in the bee yard because you don't get bees up your pants. I go use them when I garden because I don't get not mites, ticks. The people mite, ticks. So anyway, this is how they move. Oops. Let me touch it this way. Let's see if I can get it going this way. They move like an inchworm. And
How long are they?
they're about 1.5 inches long. And if you just stand there, they just start coming out at you. They sense you from heat and carbon dioxide. And so this is not everywhere in Thailand. This is in that national park, only a certain time of the year. We happen to be there. So it was just kind of interesting and gross.
Do they carry any kind of disease?
Good question. They do not, because that's the first thing we asked when we were all getting leached. They said no, there are no diseases that they are known, and none of us got sick from anything like that. But we not only had to watch out for leeches in the national park, we had these big deer that would attack you. We have crocodiles in the water. Not that we went swimming, but we didn't go down there. And then we have monkeys. Those were actually the worst ones. If you didn't lock anything up, they would come in and steal whatever food you have, and they would attack you for your food. Some young guy on the trip and a friend of his were walking. They just came from the snack bar, and he had a bag of chips. I was maybe 20 feet behind him. This monkey came out of nowhere, snatched his chips, ran off, sat down, opened it up, and started eating it. And we were like, because it was very startling. It was very fast. But yeah, the monkeys will go after all your food. So we had to worry about them a little bit. So let's start talking about the honeybees. The first one we encountered was Apis dorsata, and they are a little less than an inch long. I have both the metric and the, because they talked in metric over there in the English units, a little less than an inch long. They also have very big eyes. Look at the, compared to others. They do the large open nest, usually 3 to 6 feet long, and not quite that deep. Well, you'll see. Actually, it can be that deep. They have a large colony, 50,000 bees, and they're big bees. And you can harvest 20 to 50 pounds of honey per colony per year, roughly. The cell sizes are very similar, which is weird for the drone queen. They're similar in diameter. There's not a huge difference. They can be aggressive. We only met one aggressive colony. Unfortunately, it was the very first one. The very first one, but that's the one that Dr. Ellis and I did not get stung, but everybody else did. One of the kids got stung about 15 times, but I got to say the kids some of them were not entomologists. They wore black outfits. They weren't covered, and actually 2 girls went home after that because they just didn't want to deal with it. They were too scared. So that was kind of sad. But the rest of us muddled through, not including the guy who got 15 stings. He's like, yeah, bring it on. So he's going to be a beekeeper. So, but normally they're not aggressive. We just came across one colony that they form that protective curtain of bees around their entire one comb, and they do a wave when they feel threatened. It's just like, it's like all the bees kind of woo, like they see a wave in the stadium, it goes around. I'll show you a video. It was not our video because we didn't get a real good video. This one I just took off the internet, but it's similar to what we saw. They migrate based on nectar availability, similar to like a lot of the African bees, but they often can come back to the same spot, the same piece of comb, possibly, and they sometimes aggregate their nesting. They'll have many in one spot, sometimes very close to each other, which is kind of weird, and they can pollinate after sunset on moonlit nights. They have really big eyes. We actually saw that in a way. It wasn't a moonlit night, but it was a building that had lighting and then flower beds nearby it. And it was at night, and there were dorsata bees on those flower beds because of the sun, or the light thing. That was weird. No other bees, but there were dorsatas. So here is this, I shamefully took it off the internet, but it's basically what we saw. If I can get this to go. Oops, I did not get it to go. Come on, YouTube. Oh, well, anyway, it's not working, so I'll try it one more time, and if it doesn't do it, then you're just gonna have to take my word for it, or you can look it on your own. It's basically, you'll see, it's like you threw a pebble in the water, and you'll see them shimmer outwards. They shimmer out. Oh, well, I'm sorry, that's not going, but you can check that out. Okay, so here, this is one of the few reasons you might wear a balaclava and ski mask in the hot, humid jungles of Thailand if you're going to collect honey from a dorsata nest. Otherwise, you don't need this type of gear in Thailand. We had just come from the first and only aggressive dorsata colony, so that's why he protected himself. But this is a typical honey hunt harvester. Here's his smoker. It's a bundle of dried kind of I don't call them twigs, but stems. And that he reuses from place to place. And every time he then wants to use it, he wraps it in some of this green vegetation. It's called a lead tree. That's the name of the tree. And that pretty much acts like it diffuses the smoke and cools it off because he'll light the sticks in the middle. He will wrap rope around his feet. And hopefully this video will work. He wraps rope around the feet and he will hop up and keep his feet together. But he measures out around his feet. It's like a strap. And this is a typical nest. It is not symmetric because this honey was previously harvested from this side of the nest. Honey in dorsata, most of the time, is on the edges. And most of the time, the honey area for the dwarves are around the top. We did come across, and you're going to see a picture of, actually a video of one of the dorsatas that had its honey storage on the top. But usually it's around the edges, and the beekeeper comes and literally carves it off and harvests it. So let's hope this works. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to talk over it. Bill Sheschbach took this. He's not a professional videographer, but hey, and there's at one point where Bill gets stung, so you'll see the camera drop and then come back up. But let's see how he has the rope around his feet, the strap around his feet. He has his smoker. He's going to stop in a bit, and this is the colony is right up here, kind of behind these vines. That's the dorsata colony. So he stopped there because he's kind of relighting his smoker at the moment. Your dog's barking, you know. What he's intending to do, he is not going to harvest honey, but he is getting a sample of bees for Dr. Ellis. Every colony we went to, whatever it was, Dr. Ellis wanted samples of bees to bring back to the University of Florida. So he's not going to be cutting off anything, but you'll see him with a baggie, and he's going to be bagging some bees for him. So this guy, like I said, is 60 years old, and he just jumps up this like it's nothing. And they learn it from usually father to son. Okay, now he's going to smoke the bottom, and soon you'll start seeing the comb at the bottom. But see all the bees, it's like having queens just all flying around you, which is really wild. Yeah, well, it's free. The smoker's very free. Now you're going to start seeing the comb. Yeah, and you can see some capped brood. It's like some open comb, and then some capped brood.
They also eat the brood, right?
Oh yeah.
Not just the honey.
Yes, but the brood they usually don't cut off with the dorsata. They eat the brood usually from the dwarfs, Florea mostly, because Andreniformis. Now Bill's getting stung, that's why he's dropping it for a bit, but he'll come back up.
He's doing a good job.
He is, considering all these bees are flying right around you. You're not sure. He's actually getting stung a little. Now he's taking this bag, and he's grabbing a sample of bees, barehanded. And then he scampers back down. Bill's getting stung some more. And down he comes. So he did that many times.
Is the stinger of the dorsata similar to the mellifera with barbs?
Yeah, I think yes. I think I didn't get stung, but I remember looking at other people. I did see stingers in their apparel. So. Yes, this is the other one that has its honey stored at the top, which is weird. And the guy's already up there. He's up there standing on this kind of makeshift board. And here you can see all this capped brood. Its honey is strange. It's on the top, which is usually on the sides. But I guess they didn't read the book. The Dorsata, How to Create Comb book. But that's all honey storage. And then, yep, he's getting some more samples.
Wow, what a band of honey on this one.
That's Bill talking.
How about the queen? If the queen is knocked off there, she flies back for these?
Probably, or if they lose her, they'll just make a new one. If he took her in the sample, they'd have to make a new one, accidentally. But to be honest, they don't know near as much about these wild bees as they do Serrana, Eastern, and Western, which are managed because they can do tests on them. Okay, and then he says, is that okay? And then,
We're good, but if you're not a beekeeper, this is not your colony.
Bill's telling the other people, if you're not a beekeeper, don't. So, and that's that one.
Have they tried to domesticate them? Colonies?
I don't know. If they have not been successful because I haven't seen any domesticated open nesters. Okay, so I'm showing you all these. These are aggregations. Look, there's two right beside each other. I think there's like, it is. It was a large tree, and they were all dorsata nests there. So scientists don't know really why. Are the queens related, or they don't know, but they think it was pretty cool to see. Most of them aren't like this, but you will see some. Oh, and you'll see them on a man-made structure. So we went to a festival, it was a Buddhist festival, and we looked up at the Buddha up top, and you look real close at the Buddha up top, and those are all 4 dorsata nests. This one is empty, and you can tell it's empty because you can see honeycomb. This would be the brood area, and this would be like normally the honey storage area, so it doesn't discolored. But there were no bees on it then, where the other ones had some bees on it. So, okay, here's the one that's most like ours, Apis cerana, the eastern honeybee. These are like ours. They're both managed and wild. The Serrana eastern honeybee tends to forage a little earlier and a little later than the western honeybee, a little bit. They do fly a little faster. They don't go quite as far from their nest. As I mentioned earlier, their bands are more distinct and they're not quite as hairy. I mean, you can really see those bands, and those bands are kind of even in size. It's not like you have a bigger band and a smaller band. They're pretty even. There's what? There probably are some drones.
Towards the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be. They don't, and notice the comb isn't drawn from edge to edge on the frame. You rarely ever see a full edge to edge frame of honeycomb with the Serrana. They're just a smaller colony in general. 4 to 10 parallel combs. And in the wild, in Thailand, they're often found in hollow coconut trunks. That's kind of like their favorite nesting. Oh, when they fan their nest, they fan it in the opposite direction that western honeybees do. So they face away and fan instead of facing towards. And they don't create propolis.
Really?
Yes.
So
So you don't need an inner cover.
do they have more genetics devoted to the immune system function than mellifera?
They do things, I don't know if they have more genetics to that, but they do the things that they do that helps them tolerate varroa. I'm not talking about immune, but varroa is they swarm more frequently, their colony size is smaller, they put little holes in their drone caps. I wish ours did that, because they're thinking it desiccates the varroa. You still have enough drones to multiply. So the only downfall to this is they produce half the amount of honey that the western honeybee does. So that's why people brought the western honeybee in, because the western honeybee traditionally produces twice the amount, but then they can't deal with the mites. So that's why they were first brought in. Okay, so Apis cerana in the wild. This is typically how they're found in the wild, in a hollow coconut tree. And they can also be found in what's called ghost houses. These are like little shrines that a lot of Thai have in their yards. It's a protection type of thing, like a spiritual type thing. They love them. There was one in there. There was a Serrana colony in there. And they could be, this is an unused tire that was on the ground with a tarp over it. We saw bees going in and out, open up the tarp, hey, it's a Serrana nest. So that's Cameron taking a sample of that. So now managing them, they have both when I say Langstroth, they're not pure Langstroth, but Langstroth-esque and log hives. And they have different critters that they have to ward off, like ants and snails. We'll go to that, but this is like a double-decker, like 2 nukes on top of each other. Their colonies aren't as big. They're just not as big as our Western ones. They're much smaller. Here, typically, you're not seeing build out honeycomb from edge to edge, just a bit. But you see, like, really no propolis in there. So they'll you don't have an inner cover, you don't have frames, no problem. They'll just build on the outer cover. They'll build some comb. This guy was rather wealthy. The guy who I showed before, he owned the one I just showed was a coconut plantation, and he came in from Bangkok on the weekends and had fun. This fella was down in the south. In the south, they tend to have more Serrana because it's hotter there, and mellifera, the Western honeybee, doesn't do as well in southern Thailand. It's just too hot, whereas the Serrana does so well. And this guy, he was an old fella. He put them in concrete pipes, and they were like right sitting on the ground on a couple stones. And check out his smoker. It's an oil can that he just opened and has some coconut husk in. So his hive body was concrete logs that had some drilled holes in the end caps. Just some other styles. Some were on a post here, another post. Nothing really uniform. Some were hanging from trees, and they would smear. This was rodenticide. There's no USDA regulation. You just do what you have to get it done to deter ants and snails, something we don't have to deal with. Land snails like to make homes in the hive bodies, and the Serrana are a lot quicker to abscond. So they get a land snail in there making a house, having babies, they're out of there. So they don't want to. You would think a snail wouldn't be much of a problem, but they don't like it. So that's a problem there. Okay, 2 little videos. This is just you can just see them how they fly, going in and out. This is the double-decker one, and it's opened on the side. We opened it. I did get stung by them. It was kind of like a Western honeybee. Wasn't that big. Wasn't really a problem.
You know what it sort of looks like, a war egg?
Kind of. Yep. But they don't. You really don't see big colonies for Serrana. And you can look around there, this jungle, and they're just right on the ground there. Oops.
Isn't that a dangerous place for them to be? Aren't there predators that would just...
Must not be.
Honey badgers?
No honey badgers. No, unlike Africa has the honey badger. You're a good question. I never saw anything like a bear fence type of device or something no, I did not see. That's a good question. I did not see. No.
That's wild.
Just the snails they didn't like? No, I didn't think, they did not talk about any larger predator like a bear or a honey badger.
But wild Serrana nests are in trees. Right?
But they can be...
They're in
coconut trees, but they could be low on the ground. Yeah, we saw a Serrana one. It was like a stump, and there was it was in there. They aren't necessarily up high. A lot of times they're falling down trees. This, to me, this is my personal, I thought it was the prettiest one, the red dwarf, and they're very prevalent, lots of them. They are a little less than ½ an inch, and why they're called the red dwarf is up here, the upper part of their abdomen is kind of a rusty red, right before it hits the thorax, where the black dwarf is not. The black, you'll see pictures of them, they're black. They also have open nests like the dorsata, but much, much, much smaller, and they're not wide out in the open. The dorsata ones you can see really easily. These tend to be behind some branches. They are a little more camouflaged. They do have collect resins to make propolis around their branch nest to attach it and also protect it against ants and other type of pests. Your comb, you'll see a picture of it, but it's not that big. It's like yay big, like a big dinner plate kind of. These have really weird different cast sizes. Here is a worker and here is a drone, much darker. Look at it, it looks like a totally different insect to me. Look how blocky it is. And also the drones, I'm going to show you a close-up, they have a thumb on their back leg. Now these aren't to scale by bee, because this is like the dorsata, which would be a much huger bee, and this is the Flora, the red dwarf. But look, the red dwarf has this thumb on their hind leg. So does the black dwarf, and they don't know why.
And what's it for?
They don't know why. Function uncleared. Is it used in mating? Again, we're not sure. But it's just kind of funky, because the other ones don't. You know, we got your Western, your Eastern, you're just, oh, we don't have a black dwarf here. But that's just kind of weird. Here's a video. This is at the Grand Palace right in the middle of Thailand. If you look real quick, you'll see Dr. Sammy Ramsey, because he was there for a few days with us. He was finishing up some research. Mrs. Ellis, who's also a doctor, and then Jamie's walks in the background. But you can see just right on some lily pad flowers. And it's like a party in there. This is not the jungle. That's Dr. Ramsey, and it's Gunn. Yep, there's Dr. and Mrs. Ellis. And this is not the jungle. We are right in the city. That's like a tourist place you got to go to if you go to Bangkok. It's called the Grand Palace. So that was a. Now here is kind of like their nest is normally camouflaged. It almost looks like a rhododendron, but it's not. This is someone's backyard. They just knocked on the door. Can we go? Because they knew there was one back. Oh, sure, go on back. And here it is, kind of opened up. And you'll see there's kind of the size Bill holding a different one, but now you can kind of get a size look. And they are gentle, generally speaking. I did get stung by these. It's really intense for like 2 seconds, and then it goes away. It was like a really intense, it's like, whoa, and then did something, then was gone. Yeah, so it was a different type of sting. Single comb this one has 4 sizes of cells. At the very top, it has these really deep honeycomb storage cells, deep. Then it has your workers. You see your cap workers with some pollen in between. These are your drones. So I don't have any pictures of the queens, but they are supposedly a long pear-shaped cell located at the bottom when it's queenless. So it has 4 size cells. And it does collect propolis to support its branch and to deter ants and such. This one, they do a waggle dance too, but not like our bees. They do it right on the top part, and it's done right on the horizontal surface of the comb up here, and the waggle is aimed directly at the desired source. So, if the source is this way, they go this way. If the source is that way, they'll go kind of diagonal across the top comb. So it's more direct, let's say. Now here's the last one, and this is the elusive black dwarf. Fortunately, Dan, he was the guy that got stung 15 times. He had a great camera, and he took some awesome pictures of the black dwarf. It's related to the red dwarf, but it's black all the way. The segment's all the way at the top. We don't have the red, so it's not quite as flashy, and it's just slightly smaller than the red dwarf. It is a single comb nester as well, and it's just a lot more rare. Drone dances have been observed on their open comb, but again, scientists have no idea why these drones are dancing. And overall, less is really known about this species. I'm not making this up. the Dr. Gunn, who you saw a picture of, she wrote the book on it, which is on the end. Okay, so that's Dr. Jack, cracks me up. He is so excited. This is the first time he's ever seen a black dwarf. His reaction to it. And it even one landed on his head. This also was like the red dwarf. It was an very intense sting, but the pain didn't linger hardly at all. So we really don't know a lot about that. In fact, we didn't go out and find a nest. The other ones we found nests with honey hunters. Actually, a nest was brought to us because they said this was too far out. We're not going to take you. You guys can't handle it. So they brought it into us. They also have stingless honeybees. You've probably heard of them in a lot of the tropical areas. And it's usually kept for pollination. We did taste the honey. It's, at least the Thai stingless bee honey, so it's very sour, it's very expensive, very high water content, and ferments very quickly. I brought some home probably within a month. It was fermented. This gentleman here kept 6 types of stingless honeybees, and this is what the honey super looks like. You literally are taking like a pipette and pulling it out of each of these little bulbs of honey. You're not extracting it, you're taking it out with a pipette. And here's typical fermenting. This guy, he's doing a split. The splits are really easy to do. The splits, they basically open up one hive box, which is just like a small box with a hole. He just cuts whatever he sees in half. He cuts like half of the brood, half of the resources, just throws it in the other one. Close it up, that's it. We don't know which one has the queen in, who knows, but he says it's really easy to make a split. You just need a knife.
So is that 6 species of stingless?
Yes.
Subspecies?
Those were 6, no, those were 6 subspecies. This was the Trigona species. And he said 6 types, so they would be like subspecies. I think there were 2 species over there, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, John. Don't quote me on that.
We actually have a club member in Essex.
Yes.
Who has a farm in the Philippines where he keeps
Stingless?
stingless bees in coconut
I believe it.
husks.
Because
and he gave a talk to us
that would be cool.
last year. It's online.
I'll check it out.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you. I'll check it out. But they have a lot of types of stingless honeybees in Thailand. I mean, a lot. Because I remember we went to a museum and we saw a bunch, but we didn't study them that much. I just brought that up as something kind of an aside. Okay. Yeah. If you've heard Dr. Ramsey talk, he talks a lot about the Tropicolaps mite, and tropy mite for short. It has been found on all 5 of the honeybee species in Thailand, including the western honeybee, Apis mellifera. It is really tiny. You think of varroa mites tiny, this is tinier. And it is really fast. It scurries around like crazy. So we had a lab with Dr. Ramsey searching for mites. We would pull out this was brood that had been killed, and we were looking for both varroa and tropy mites. And the first one who found one got to post theirs on the top, and it was Dr. Alice. He's extremely competitive. he's very funny and he's very folksy, but he's extremely competitive, and he found the first tropy. So I should update that. To my knowledge, tropy has not been found in the US at all so far. The populations, if it came, would be more harmful to our southern beekeepers. It likes warmer climates where you have brood all year long. That's one benefit of being in New Jersey. We usually have a brood break, so they wouldn't live as well here. The bad thing is there's no real good field test to determine if you have tropy mites. The bump test is basically taking a frame of brood. You have to have a piece of black paper out there, bump it, and look really close to see if you see these things scurrying around. But it's not a real good field test. The best ways to mitigate it are using formic acid or brood breaks. Dr. Ramsey's research was trying heat treatments with solar and heating pads, but they weren't that effective. One thing he did find is he's found that tropy was pretty susceptible to our typical varroa destructor treatments, formic acid and brood breaks. So if you're monitoring and treating for varroa and you have tropy, you're probably taking care of it too. And the fact that we live not in a tropical or semi-tropical climate helps. Other mites, okay. Many years ago, these were thought to be one and the same, but through genetic testing, there were actually 2 different mites. And this, both varroa species associated with the eastern and western bee, the Apis florea, the red dwarf, they have that mite. They actually have several mites, so I'm not going to go through all these because it's not that exciting. But each of the 5 that we saw have mites associated with it. This This is really probably a destructor now because this was written in 96. This is probably a varroa destructor, but they all have their mites they have to deal with over in Thailand. Not fun. And they all have viruses. We don't know about any viruses but the black dwarf because essentially it's not studied, but all the rest of them, these are the viruses that they have to deal with that they know of in Thailand for the various types. So mellifera, we know deformed wing virus pretty well here. Other diseases, the foul brood diseases are found primarily with the western colonies, western honeybee colonies where they're kept, and Nosema serrana can be found in all 5 species over there. But here's what you're talking about, do they eat the brood? Yes. This is a typical side stand. This is literally right off the road. These are all Florida nests that people buy. They can buy here's just the honeycomb, or they can buy the whole nest. This is dorsata, the giant honeybee honey that has been bottled. Because you don't really get a lot of honey off of these. And your typical Thai farmers, if you describe your typical Thai farmer, it's male, and he's between the age of 41 and 67. I didn't meet any, I met one female beekeeper over there, but she was like in a business that she and her husband started. So generally speaking, now these numbers seem skewed. Generally speaking, there's a little over 1,000 beekeepers that keep the western honeybee. Many of them don't keep, that would infer that they'd have 250 colonies per. There are several large firms, and then lots of little ones. Kind of like us, yes. And then there are people that keep the serrana. That's the eastern, and that's mainly in southern Thailand because the western just doesn't do too well there. It's just too hot and humid for them. And then, of course, you have your wild honeybee hunters, like I showed you earlier. The guys, and they're the ones that are going after the giant and the red dwarf for honey or brood.
What does the honey taste?
Okay. It tastes all right, but I mean, it tastes different because there's different flowers. Yeah, different flowers, but it tastes fine. Except for the stingless. It's a little tart and ferments quickly, but it tastes fine. This is your typical honey production in Thailand. As you can see, the western that was brought in, imported, about twice as much as the eastern, but it doesn't deal with varroa very well. And then your dorsata, you can get a nice chunk off your dorsata, but you got to shimmy up a tree and with a machete. I'm not that brave to do that. And then your 2 dwarves, you really do not get much from, so they sell that more for brood. There are other hive products sold, the wax, the brood, products using propolis or venom. Also, royal jelly. Royal jelly is really big in Asia. They put it for anti-aging stuff. One of the 20-year-old girls bought this anti-aging cream. I said, why are you buying it? You're 20 years old. You don't need anti-aging. Let me try it. Let me put it on and see if I look like you when I wake up the next morning. It didn't work, but it was fun to try. It didn't hurt or anything. And that's really expensive.
Did she turn around and say, I'm not 20, I'm 97?
She would have been a really old college student. But yes, they were great. I really enjoyed the kids. And here we bought one, and I'm eating some of the honey off of the. As you can see, I didn't eat the brood. No, you can see it's kind of hot and sweaty there. I actually did eat some. I ate some fried hornets there. They served us that at one of the dorsata tree areas. They said try. It was fried. It was nutty. They kind of have a nutty taste.
How long does the brood last? How long does it remain edible?
Good question. I don't know. But good question. I don't know. You would think.
Not long.
Yeah, you would think it would kind of rotten out. I don't know. But the income from crop pollination services for others, they have maybe for themselves. You know, like the farmers in the past would have some bees for themselves, but they don't really have a big pollination industry at all over there. So, Kapkun Ka, which means thank you. From the land of 1,000 smiles. That's Thailand's nickname. There you go. Thank you. And that's if you really want to know about beekeeping, that the honeybees of Thailand by Dr. Gunn. She's the one that wrote it. That's all that info. So that is, and they are probably going back again this year. I was talking to Jamie today. He says, yes, they're going to do it. They do it. They're doing it every 2 years. I'm not sure if I'll go back or not. I'd like to, but we'll see. Yes, John.
Mating behaviors of the different species, is it similar to mellifera? More specifically, is there polyandry in the mating, or is it single drone to a queen?
I don't know. I don't know anything about the wild ones, the open nesters, because that's not studied. Serrana probably, but they didn't bring that up. That's a good question. I will ask Dr. Gunn, because I still have her email. So if it'd be interesting,
as a 12 to 20 like mellifera or
right.
2 or...
Right. I will ask. That's a good question. I think it's poly, they're poly, many, I think they're poly drone, do a lot of drones, but I'm not sure. But this lady would know. If anybody knows, it would be her. And I still have her email, so I'll ask her. Anything else?
Another question. So you had the one map of the world there with the concentration of the different species, and a lot of them showed up in Eastern Asia, for that matter. So, and there's some folks that think that bees in general really originated in Asia.
Yes.
To Africa.
Yes.
Did you talk about that?
Yes, and they that's what they think. They agree. They think that the origin of bees was in Asia, because usually where you see the most diversity is often where you see the origins of that insect. They feel it was in Asia. Yeah, that's what they're thinking is.
Is the Florea, Apis florea in Thailand the same as what's in Africa? Because you didn't have that on your map.
I don't think Florea is in Africa.
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yep.
It was not on my map then. Yeah, my map didn't only showed mellifera in Africa. That I would have to find out, because according to this map, which I got from the University of Florida, it doesn't have.
Grant, you saying that Florea is in Malawi?
Not in Malawi. I believe it's in Kenya or Sudan.
Okay.
Marianne Fraser did some work there. She was
I was over in Kenya with Marianne.
either in Kenya or Sudan. This goes back when I was in college.
Okay, well, yeah, I
did
was.
some research work with Florea Combe and
That's news to me. Well, actually, you're right.
wax moths.
You're right. Actually, look, you're right. Look, Florea is this light green, and it does go into this part of Africa.
Oh, there you go.
So you are right. I was over in this area. So Florea does extend over into the Arabian Peninsula and this part of Africa. You are right. You are right. See, when I think of...
Landy wrong again.
Yeah. Well, when I was thinking Africa, I was thinking it was all red, but there is a little bit of Florea that comes in here. You're right. Okay, so, well, thank you for having me. And I just hope to see you again. You're welcome.